minute. Stay on. Okay, y'all. Hey guys, I wanted to talk about stress and how stress is very unhealthy, which we know for your health, but how stress can also be fatal. And I want to give two testimonies about that and what I learned from the testimonies. It's particularly one. But first I'm going to show you what I found. It says that prolonged exposure to stress can lead to health problems that can be fatal. Stress can cause damage over time that can lead to premature death from cardiovascular issues, cancer, and other health problems. So one of the stories, a quick one I want to share. I think I may have touched on this before, but I want to just kind of go over it a little bit. When I was a teenager, I was 17, I had a baby. I went 9 months and the baby was a stillborn. But the whole time I was pregnant with my son, I stressed the whole pregnancy. One of the reasons I was stressed, one, because I was a teenager and I was pregnant and I shouldn't have been pregnant. The other reason I was stressed out is because some of the people in my life around me were, criticizing me for being pregnant. They were making mean comments. I was feeling ashamed and I was very embarrassed, and that feeling of shame and embarrassment never lifted up the whole time I was pregnant. My auntie, she was wonderful. My grandma told her, she always stressed out about being pregnant. So handled it like this and like this and like that. However, it was hard for me to get the people around me, their voices out of my head, going outside, trying to act normal, not trying to bring any attention to my pregnancy. And then at night, that would be the only time I would rub my stomach and acknowledge to myself that I was pregnant, because I was so ashamed. And then just hearing the negativity all day long. I remember one day when I walked in the house and my grandma said to me, she said, "Kenny," she said, she was such a cheerleader. She didn't condone any foolishness, but she understood. She said, "Kenny, are those Negroes bothering you?" She didn't say Negroes, y'all. Y'all know what she said. I said, I lied. I said, "No, ma'am." She said, "Because I would tell them all." She didn't say tell them off either. She said, "Because I'll tell them all." And then she said to me, she said, "Stop stressing that baby." I didn't tell her I was under any stress, although I was. She just knew. She said, "Stop stressing that baby." She said, "Because if you stress that baby, you can kill it." And I just said, "Yes, ma'am," because I was suppressing all of this inside of me at the age of 17. And I didn't know what to do with it. And I did not know what it looked like to stop stressing over something that was really stressful. And so, yeah. I won't share no more stories around that. But anyway, it was very overwhelming. And so what ended up happening, here it is, I'm 9 months pregnant, and it's time for me to have the baby. In fact, what ended up happening, I was not even in labor. I was like 2 weeks overdue. I was not in labor. I pretend I was in labor, and thank God I did. And because my auntie took me to the hospital, and on my way to the hospital, I could literally feel myself leaving. I could feel myself dying. And I was just in the car, I was just like groaning. And when I got to the hospital, I just kind of went out. I just went out. I remember the doctor coming in the room. And at this point, when he came in the room, I was having the outside of my body I was outside of my body. I was in the spiritual room. And so I could hear him yelling, saying, "She's going to die. She's going to die. The baby is dead. What happened?" I remember just being on the other side, having an out of body experience, if you will, and seeing everything going on from outside of my body, because I was dying and the baby died. Right. And Um, a lot of that, if not all of that, was contribute to me being stressed out the whole pregnancy. The whole pregnancy, it almost took my life. Stress break down your inner organs. Just like we read in different articles, it's proven that stress can cause different illness, heart disease, even cancer, just different things. In this article, it said diabetes, right? Stress could cause you to overeat. It can help. It can make you develop bad habits like eating and smoking, or taking drugs, or being promiscuous. Stress could cause a lot of different things on you. But one of the most dangerous things is that it can kill you. It can take you out. So I learned a lot from that situation. You know how the Bible says that God tells us to cast our cares on him because he cares for us. And that's very important when we're stressed, to actually take whatever we're carrying and whatever we care about, no matter what it is. It could be the job, it could be the children, it could be the husband, and actually give it to him, because we literally were not built to house or suppress stress within our body. The other story I want to tell is about a best friend I had. His name was John. And so John came to stay at my grandma's homeless shelter. But by the time John came, my grandmother was on a second church, and she wasn't like taking people in that much anymore. So when John came to stay with us, he came to the house. So I was staying with my grandma when John came. I was like 14 and John was, I want to say 17. And he had just came from Job Corps. And so when John came to, and I think he was maybe even the youngest person that ever came to my grandmother's shelter. And at this point, it was her home. So when John came, I was there. My auntie Nina had come from New York. She was there. And so when John showed up at the house, he looked very distraught. He looked very down. He was very, very lanky, because he was a tall person. He was very lanky, and he just, it's going to sound mean when I say this, but it's the truth. And because we were best friends, we used to tease each other like this all the time. Like, he used to call me big head, and I should tell him how unattractive he was. So anyway, so when John came to the house, John was just down, because he came home from Job Corps and he went to go home, and there was no home for him to go to, and his mom didn't want him there, so he ended up with us, and which was a good thing. So when John came to the house, I got a best friend, I got a brother, I got a cousin, I got everything in one. And my auntie Nina, she was good for both of us. I mean, she was wonderful, because she had the ability to make John or anybody feel like they were the most beautiful people in the world. I mean, she took John, his confidence was sharp. Like, he was just down and out. He was just nothing. He was a child. And my aunt Nina just built him all the way up. So you could not tell him he wasn't the finest person in the world. He wasn't. But he thought he was. Long story short. One of the things that John suffered from is that he had a lot of mother issues. And because of that, his mother issues projected onto his romantic relationships, right? The last romantic relationship he had, he found at the job where he was working at this particular time. He found a girlfriend. She was very, 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 very pretty girl. He really liked her. They stayed together for a little while, and all he would do is just talk about her, right? But this girl ended up being very toxic. And at the time when they started, of course, he did not know that she was engaged to be married to someone else. Now, this was very, very devastating for John, because throughout his life, one of the ways the enemy will continuously attack him is through relationship. So he didn't have a good relationship with his mother. And then throughout time, he also had some rocky relationships that did not work, right? However, he will continue to just kind of pursue being in a relationship. Like, he's a man. He wants a relationship. He's a human. He wants love. He wants romance, right? So anyway, he gets with this girl. It seemed to be working out pretty well. And then out of the blue, he found out that she has a man. And when this man come from out of jail, she act like she did not know John at all. She cut him off like they was two ships just passing in the night. She just like that. And when she did that to John, it took him under. It wasn't like for John, whenever he get his heart broke, it won't be like one of those things where he's heartbroken, he's going through the motion. When John's heart is broken, he wants to end his life. He would literally get that down. He would literally go that far. One time he had a relationship and it didn't work out. And he tried to take his life, and he ended up in not juvenile, what you call it. He ended up in a mental facility. And so that was something that happened years prior to her. So I knew that when he is heartbroken, he is literally crushed. Like he want to just end it. Like he just go overboard, right? That was John. So this time, however, what ended up happening is she left. He was distressed. He was overwhelmed. He talked crazy a little bit about, how he felt, how he didn't want to live. It was days where he spent like weeks and weeks in the room. And I would go, because he was living, God, where he was living for a little while. Then he came and stayed with me. And I would go knock on the door where he was at, and then he would just like be through. So eventually what ended up happening is, because he was doing everything for this girl, right? Well, we come to find out. So anyway, what ended up happening was he eventually got a little better, right? He was feeling better. In fact, he started going back with the girl he used to go with, and he was really happy there. He was moving along. Things were going well. So one day he called me. He called me one day and he said to me, he said, this was the last time I talked to him. He called me. He said, Kenya, he said, where you at? I said, I just picked up mama from work. He said, okay. He said, I went to the hospital last night. I said, yeah. I said, for what? He said, my daughter, I told her I wasn't feeling good. And she's like, Daddy called the ambulance. He was giving me this whole story. I was like, okay. He said, I went to the hospital because I was having chest pains. I said, really? He said, yeah. He said, they told me it was ulcers. I said, I didn't know that ulcers could give you chest pains. He was like, yeah, they told me that I was having ulcers and that's why I had chest pains. So I'm like, oh, okay, that's new. So I said, where are you now? He said, I'm at work. I said, well, if you feel bad, why are you at work? And he said, well, I don't want to be home alone. I said, I hear you. He said, well, we haven't went out in a couple of weeks. We got to go back. We got to go out this week. And I said, yeah, we got to do that. And so he said, all right, big head. I said, all right, ugly. I'll talk to you later. We laughed. And when I was getting ready to hang up the phone, I literally felt like I wasn't going to talk to him again. Right? We hung up a phone. An hour later, I get a call that John is dead. John is dead. So, John is dead. Okay. That was that. I'm not going to tell you how that phone call went, but John is dead. So I rushed to the hospital, and here he is. He's laying, we went to the back of the hospital. He's on this table. And he's long is laying on this table, and he got on his work clothes, and we trying to figure this out. And they said that he had a massive heart attack. Like a massive heart attack. That's weird. Because what I'm thinking, right? John had a massive heart attack. John and I would work out all the time. Like, we would go running. Like, he was my workout partner. We would just, I was like, and then he had no weight on him. Not that you need weight and all the stuff to have a heart attack. You know, the most healthiest people can have a heart attack. But what I'm saying is that I just didn't understand, how could he have a heart attack? Like, what was going on? It's because usually when I hear heart attack at that time, I'm thinking, well, you know, clogged artery, you know, that's what I'm thinking. I don't know. That's what I was thinking at the time. So I had an opportunity to talk to the doctor later, but I'll go back to what happened. Oh, Jesus. So I had an opportunity to talk to the doctors about John's heart attacks. I was like, they said he had a heart attack. I said he went to the other hospital last night, and they said that he said it wasn't ulcers that he was having. It was his heart. I said, oh, his heart was clogged. He said, no, his heart wasn't clogged. He said it popped. Now, that's the thing I want y'all to hear. They said that John, the main artery of his heart, thinned until it popped. I said, what? It thinned until it popped? I said, so what causes that? He said, stress. He said, he stressed himself to death. Yeah. He stressed himself to death. Let me tell you something. Let me go back to the hospital before I tell y'all something. So John stressed himself to death. So we're in the back of the hospital. We grieving over John, who just died. And then somebody from the front of the hospital came to the back and said, Kenya, come outside. The ex-girlfriend outside. Like, what she's doing here? So I go out front. She comes to drop off John's debit card and his credit card. Now, they'd have been broken up for a while, and he's still paying her bills. And then she leaves. She drops off debit and credit cards, and then she goes. Because by the time I got out there, she was gone. And then 5 months later, she's married. We could allow things and people to stress us and suffer the consequences of those things and people while they move on with life. Or we can learn how to trust God. We can learn how to trust God, or it could be fatal. I've heard stories of how people have worked themselves to death trying to maintain something. Trying to maintain a lifestyle, trying to please the people of the job, the stress of the job, and they die right there on the job because they're stressed out. I lost a whole baby and almost lost my life because of stress. John died over time. Stress. When I heard that this chick got married 5 months after he died, I made up my mind that I would not let a relationship, none, stress me to death. My grandma used to have this saying. She used to say, one monkey don't stop nothing. Don't stop no show. It is a such thing as lovesick. But you could get to the point where you idolize a job. You idolize a person. You idolize a situation till it causes you to get so sick till you develop high blood pressure. Or you want to take your life, or you lose your life because of it. I want to read some scriptures and I'm going to shut up. Philippians 4:6-7 says, do not be anxious about anything, but in every situation by prayer and petition with thanksgiving, present your request to God. Do not be anxious about anything. Like sometimes I could take a whole lot of practice, right? Not being anxious, not living in a state of anxiety, not being fearful about what's going on around you, not knowing how things are going to work out could really stress you out. But the Bible said, do not be anxious about anything, not some things, but anything. But in every situation, that takes practice. But in every situation, by prayer and petition with thanksgiving, present your requests to God. Through prayer and petition. That word petition is a legal word. We hear it in court, like you petition the court. But through prayer and petition, make your request known unto God with thanksgiving. I believe that Thanksgiving part is like an act of faith because you know God is going to do it. Right? Lord, this is my situation. You told me not to be anxious for nothing. For you did not give me the spirit of fear, but of love, power, and a sound mind. So, Father, I declare that I have a sound mind. I declare and I know that you hear me because you said that if I pray and I ask, then you heard me, then you know whatever I pray for, that is done. So I thank you, God. And God, I also ask you to remove all fear and uncertainty within me, God, because you have made a covenant love with me, God. You said with this righteousness comes peace. So I declare peace and I bind up the spirit of fear. I bind up the spirit of worry. I cancel every evil voice and everything the enemy trying to tell me. God, help my unbelief. Help me lift up my faith right now in Jesus' name. You pray and you make your request known unto God. John and I were so young and we did not have these tools to help us. But oh my God, if I had what I had right now, I would encourage my friend in a whole nother way. Anyway, people. Don't let stress kill you. Or people. Pray y'all have a good day. Thank you.